Wai Mun, it is wonderful to have you on Floor Talk. Thanks for joining me today.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
My pleasure. So now let's start off by talking about the company. What was the vision behind Dr. Anywhere when you first founded it, and how has it evolved?
When we first started it in 2017, it was all about using technology to improve healthcare accessibility at a very affordable rate while keeping the quality there. The very first product that we had back then, and we still have it, is telemedicine. So imagine 8 years ago, it wasn't that popular, but today again, it's mainstream, right? Now, 8 years ago when we started that, it was innovative. Now, along the way, as we started to listen more to our users, they're telling us that, hey, you cannot just be telemedicine. You have to be more. You have to be omnichannel. You have to build experience services around me. And that's what we did exactly. And that's what we are still doing, which is to build out that healthcare experience across our users' healthcare journey. What does it mean? Meaning that as a platform, we have to be able to vertically integrate our services to cater to primary care, secondary care, tertiary care, step-down care, and preventive care. And it's very complex in healthcare, but we have chosen our user as the core of our healthcare experience to build around. And when we are able to complete that whole experience around that journey of our users, that is when we think that we have been able to build a very tech-enabled experience for our users that we think that it will be wonderful for them.
How did you navigate such fast-paced growth, and what key factors drove that expansion?
We have been growing 60% CAGR in the last 3 years at an improving margin year on year. We do believe that there are 3 elements to it. Number 1, hiring the right people. Number 2, having a system that incentivizes people to be aligned with the company's objective. And number 3, to have the right culture. The right culture to innovate, the right culture to learn, to 10x ourselves, and to use technology as a core to grow the business.
Why is the hospital anywhere concept critical in addressing today's healthcare challenges?
The main challenge that we are facing globally today is that there is a rising healthcare cost. Now, when we look deeper into the reason, the drivers behind rising healthcare costs, we distillate them into 2 factors. Number 1, the cost of real infrastructure, and number 2, the cost of manpower. On point number 1, when we talk about the cost of real estate, the real assets, you think about there's an arbitrage between hospital zone land and non-hospital zone land. Typically, hospital zone land are a lot pricier than one that's not. Now, the question for us is, in the concept of a hospital anywhere, we are able to look at the traditional features of a hospital, deconstruct them, and rebuild them modularly in non-hospital zone land. So now, when you have a lower price in terms of real asset, it becomes a lot more affordable. Number 2, on manpower shortage, the question here is, how do we add more doctors into the equation? It takes a long time. So for us, we prefer to look at how do we improve the productivity of doctors. And that's where we started, right? Using telemedicine, a doctor can now serve 5x the number of patients in a single day. You reduce downtime, you improve productivity, and that is when you do it at mass, it will lead to a better quality of care as well as a lower healthcare cost curve downwards.
What are the key challenges in addressing Southeast Asia's evolving healthcare needs and changing consumer behavior, and how is the industry responding to these shifts?
In Southeast Asia, I would think that relatively to the rest of the world, there is a higher rate of inflation there. And if you think about that rate of inflation compared to the rest of the world, and you compare that, you fit that into the very typical iron triangle relationship between the healthcare provider, the consumer, the patients, and the payer, there's a very profound impact in that. Because in a hyperinflation healthcare cost, what's going to end up is that your payer will be protesting. Your patients are simple, they just want to get well, right? And your provider here is now saying that, hey, it's not because I am not able to provide care, it's because you're not paying me enough. And some of them could start to cut corners, right? And the only way to solve that, in our opinion, is to be able to leverage on technology. And what we're talking about here. Number one, I spoke about that, using technology to improve productivity. Number two, using data, and again, technology, to look at insights into fraud, medical wastage. And number three, using automation to simplify, optimize back-end processes, because when you look at the stack of healthcare costs, some of them, or a good portion of them, comes from back-end processing. And when we are able to compress that cost, again, we're all into lowering the cost curve and eventually passing that on to healthcare users.
Finally, what key trends are shaping the future of healthcare in Southeast Asia, and how is DA positioned to respond?
Number one, we are seeing a wider adoption of technology as healthcare solutions. We are seeing more physicians, more doctors using telemedicine, for example, to allow accessibility and to have a more consistent experience between their patient and themselves. Now, take for example, from a patient experience standpoint now, for a few simple questions, you do not have to travel to the clinic or the hospital and wait for a few hours just to get an answer, right? You can just do it remotely right now. Number two, we are seeing rising demand for preventive care. So there's a lot more demand today for health screening, for cancer screening, and follow-up care. Now, this is also because, in our opinion, there is a rising chronic health issue within Southeast Asia. Better food, greasier food, right? And I think cancer is also something that is on top of mind for a lot of people today. So the whole education piece around, if you do early detection, there's a cure for it, it's kind of driving that part of the demand as well. The third trend that we are seeing is the whole use of Gen AI in general, to look at solving different parts of healthcare industry issues. Mainly today, it's all about processing back-end healthcare receipts, finance, so on and so forth. For us, we are rolling out a few features over time to basically to use Gen AI and automation to improve accessibility, efficiency. Now, on rising demand for preventive care, we just started our medical suites, focus a lot on bringing that whole preventive care health screening experience to our users, and as well as a decentralized home-based health screening. So imagine the phlebotomist going to your home, draw your blood, send in that for a test, and you have a remote consultation with a doctor to go through your results. And I would say that in terms of telemedicine, that's something that is a bread and butter for us, and we've been doing that since day one.
Well, Wai Mun, it has been wonderful to talk with you. Thanks for joining me on Floor Talk today.
Thank you so much.